Back when PSVR2 launched, I covered a game that, to be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of. One that I had hyped up so much in my head that when I got around to playing it, its subpar visuals just kind of turned me off from it completely. But today we're going to jump back into it and see whether or not it's improved, because it's had several updates since I last looked at it, and if I was a little too harsh on it when it came out. This is No Man's Sky on the PSVR2, and it is possibly the most expansive game on PSVR2, by far. There's so much you can do and explore with friends, on the flat screen, in VR, on this game. But it's got a lot of drawbacks that keep it from being great. So, let's take a look. Maybe I feel a bit better on now, because I've played a lot of PSVR2 games, from the good to the bad, and I have a feeling this one isn't going to be as bad as I remember it being upon my initial impressions, because that was pretty broken and didn't look too great. Now immediately we do have a slight issue. Okay, it's fixed itself. There we go. Now we have full body, full me. See, I got legs, and immediately we're presented with a bit of an issue here. One is that the movement animation kind of wiggles your hands around. That's fine, whatever. This itself is very, very blurry. I have no idea what you're seeing here on the social screen. It's probably fairly crisp. It isn't. Don't get me wrong, the scale of the building right here is absolutely massive, but it does get killed a little bit by the fact that it's just blurry. It really is. And it's weird because it's just stuff in the distance. Like this mountain ridge doesn't have too much aliasing. What is going on my arm? But there's a little shimmer around it, and those ships, even though that's kind of amazing, are really blurry. But then close-up objects like this are, are pretty alright, I would say. It does give you spectacle like that, but I can't really make out what those ships look like. Also, your VR body doesn't turn with you, so you can just go like this, which is interesting. So it doesn't really offer any free movement aside from using the controllers. You can't crouch down and pick stuff up because your arm gets stuck here, and you can't really jump and go higher because your arms get stuck at about this distance, whereas mine are a lot higher than this in real life. So there's a lot of limitations, and visually it isn't up to scratch. However, the amount of content that you're presented with in No Man's Sky is pretty massive, and this is just one of the planets. You can see you've got aliens flying around, you've got ships, you've got massive structures. I mean, that ship is just taken off in front of me, same with that one. And I think it's running fairly smoothly. It might be 60 Hz reprojected, but now we jump into here. This brings me to my next slight issue with the game, and that is the text and all of these displays and readouts over here. Now, first of all, I've got to say, sitting in a cockpit in VR, I mean, it's a pretty magical experience. I mean, look at this. You got the canopy, you can look out everywhere. This beats the flat version by a mile. Don't get me wrong. If I'm jumping into No Man's Sky, I will not play it flat. I will play it in VR, despite the graphical, hitches. But yeah, the readouts on here are worse than they looked at launch. That is incredibly blurry for me. And all my eye tracking is done right, my lens IPD separation is done correctly. It just doesn't look too great. Let's take us for a spin. And despite the issues, I gotta love the ambition and the scale, right? You really do. And I'm very tempted to try and run this game on PC with my new PC in VR, possibly if I can get my hands on a headset, just to see how it compares, because it's just the blurriness in, distant objects like the plants down there. There's reprojection, and it really doesn't look all that great is the issue. Bit of head haptics there. And there we are. I mean, no matter what I say, you can't beat that view, you really can't. However, there's no PSVR2 game that offers the amount of expansiveness that this does in terms of what you can do. Because if you press Galaxy Map, you'll see we're then put into the galaxy, and we can move to a lot of different locations. The different stars, different star systems. We can select whichever one we want, and we're going to warp there. And you get some incredible visuals here, you really do. This is amazing. God damn. I don't think I'll ever get over how good this looks. Despite the blurriness, the colors are just so vibrant, and the HDR makes it look nuts. It really does. Oh, okay, that's cool. Whoa! Let's turn us around. Whoa, wow. Now, the rings don't look too bad, but just after playing Red Matter 2 and seeing the fidelity of those rings, nothing comes close. But they do look pretty solid, and the actual planet surface itself, I think, looks better than the last time I played. Last time I remember it being a blurry mess, but this is actually pretty nice. And also, look at like the condensation on the windows. That's a cool effect. Whoa! That's pretty nuts. And stuff like this you just can't get in many other games at all. Like, look at that. Big old mainframe looking thing. And that really doesn't look that bad. Maybe it's just with environmental and natural things. Because with industrial looking places like this, it's still noticeable, but it doesn't look as bad. Now this is where the game kind of kicks into high gear for me. It's doing this stuff. So we'll engage the pulse engine. And this is going to tune a frequency and find us a very special event in the game. Which, there it is. Right underneath the rings. Oh man, look at that. Oh, see, the game does shine in certain points, it really does. And I think I took for granted how ambitious the game is in terms of its scale as well. And also, the head haptics sound pretty feel pretty solid. Because when I was boosting then, I definitely felt it. Okay. There we are. And now we are technically out in open space with this bloody massive this is probably the coolest freighter mission I've ever done, because I've just landed on top of a freighter. I can walk over here, I can see 2 other planets over in that direction. I've got a massive planet with rings over me. This looks good. This actually looks really good. I wish that would go away, but there we go. It is quite overdone with HUD, I must admit, but goddamn, this looks good. And that OLED panel-wise, the contrast between that light and the dark, like over here, it's kind of nuts. I'm a very big fan. And that lighting as well. Yeah, this is very alien, like Nostromo. I'm a big fan of that. Obviously, we can scan everything, shows us everything. And yeah, the game is very UI heavy. I'm not sure if you can turn that off or not. But yeah, I mean, atmosphere-wise, and the lighting, and the fog, look really good in here, I will admit. Whoa, there's a fleet. See, random encounters like this in other games you just wouldn't find either, would you? Just a bloody spaceship fleet going around. Whoa. Gives me the same feeling of the Star Wars Battlefront mission, where you fly around all the rebel freighters. But yeah, if you're a fan of space, like me, you'll probably end up loving it, but the technical caveats are fairly big. Goddamn, this planet is very, very bright. Whoa, okay, this one looks better than the last planet I visited. Seems like there's more vegetation rendered in. Let's find somewhere high and land there, eh? It's odd, it's really odd, because the mountains don't have aliasing all over them, you see? Aliasing is essentially when you have, straight lines that are actually made up of jagged lines, and what anti-aliasing does is it makes them smooth. And that is fairly smooth in the headset. It's just blurred, it's just shimmery, and it's not like jagged, it's just shimmery. That tree looks really nice though, holy shit. And like, you can't get vistas like this anywhere else on PSVR 2. With generated animals like this, you can ride, you can go on. I mean, it's a technical feat. It is, don't get me wrong. Like, this is completely nuts that this is even possible. But it should look better. It really should. And I don't know whether it's because they're focusing on, the Apple Silicon version at the moment, getting that up and running, Maybe they've slightly forgotten about the PSVR2 version, but I just feel like the graphical upgrade, the leap, isn't too far from the PSVR1 version. But yeah, the sky also looks really blurry. Like, it feels like there's a PSVR1 haze over it. It's worse than Switchback for sure. But then there's stuff like this that makes it seem really cool, because you got, you know, a blizzard and everything. And then you've also got to take into account that I can go into here, in the middle of this storm. I can switch to my terrain manipulator, and I can do this. I can dig myself a hole from the storm in the side of a cave. That's ridiculous. For a VR game, being able to manipulate terrain, and hell, even put it back. There you go. That cave is now filled. That's nuts. It really is. But I still would recommend it. If you're on the fence, that made me feel slightly sick. Because there are truly places to be wowed in. I mean, you might be able to see the effects on the side of my helmet that are like frosted. That's really cool. Then the night sky. And everything comes together occasionally to make a fantastic experience. But it's just the inconsistency of the visuals that really don't do it for me sometimes. But anyway, yeah, thank you all for joining me. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video. And so does this thing. This thing right here hopes to see you in the next video. Look at it go. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.